like you're on an island back there.
encourage people to sit close. So if, we appreciate your willingness to be part of that. That's always nice. Masks are permitted, masks are optional, but yeah, it's a little vulnerable being close, I guess, right? But, there's no value, there's no judgment. We just it also what we're finding, it actually it encourages people to sing a little bit, because the closer we are to people, the more contained our voices are. We hear ourselves, we hear us more clearly. And maybe that's an encouragement to sing. Maybe that's an encouragement. I don't know. One of those things that setting an ambiance. How do you give people a quality of presence? And so we set the room a little bit different. So yeah, we manipulate things a little bit. I want to also just say to make sure you all have a prayer book and a program for tonight. Because we have music in the program and we have a couple of visuals in the program. Bless you. Not for you. Never make promises you can't keep.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. For those who are here in our sanctuary, for those who are with us online, we so much appreciate your presence. Your presence helps us make this a holy congregation. In Hebrew, we use this word a lot, these words, Kihila Kadoshah, and we translate that as a sacred community. And that's what we are. Tonight we are hoping to become, if we haven't already gotten there, a sacred community. We have members here tonight. We have guests. We have visitors from out of town. So I hope after this service we can all get to know one another. But now we welcome Shabbat together in this place at these times. We begin with music as we always do.
I'll start with a melody that's unique to the season. If you were out at the park with us last week, that would have been the first time you would have heard it this year. And then we'll move into a nigun that we sing all the time. Yael hai, lai lai, lai 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 lai. Yael lai lai, lai 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 lai. Lai lai lai, lai 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 lai. Yael lai 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 lai. Yael lai
Shabbat Shalom. Tonight we enter, now we've already entered actually, tonight we continue. We have a period of time that we are living in, and it's the period of the 3 weeks. It's a period of time between the 17th of Tamuz, which was a week and a couple of days ago, and the 9th of Av, which will be in about 2 weeks from yesterday. And during this period, in the history of the Jewish people, there are certain things that happened to us. In the very long ago history, when Jerusalem was destroyed on the 9th of Av in the year 586 or so, we think, it took 3 weeks for the Babylonians to breach the walls of Jerusalem and finally destroy the temple and then exile the Jews to Babylon. But during this 3-week period, there are other calamities of our people that we remember. We remember, according to tradition, this might have been the time within which Moses took the 2 tablets of the law and shattered them because he was so angry at the Jews worshiping the golden calf. There was a burning of a Torah scroll. I'll talk about that later, actually, by someone who, at the time of the Roman Revolution, was particularly anti-Semitic. We observe that during this time, of course, the Jews were expelled from Spain just before Tisha B'Av in 1492, or so we are told. There was the outbreak of wars just before Tisha B'Av in 1914, the beginning of World War I, which really upset and destroyed a lot of Jewish communities. And of course, the same kinds of tragedies and calamities occurred to our people during the Holocaust. There were many different difficulties and tragedies that happened during this time. And during time of tragedy and during times of difficulty, what do? We look to one another for support. We look to a community for support. We look to the ones we love and the ones we cherish, because they too are people that help us through difficult times. And whenever we think we're having a difficult time, we also can look towards Shabbat, because Shabbat is a time when we enter a slightly different world. And we are able to relax. We are able to make this day of rest indeed a day of rejuvenation for our souls and comfort for ourselves as well. To begin our Shabbat worship tonight, we offer Yedid Nefesh. It's on page 128 in the prayer book, 128. And this was a poem written to arouse our love for God as we enter a time of prayer. And it's not only done on Shabbat, but it's done on many other times as well, but especially on Shabbat. We yearn toward God, who gives us these days of rest and privilege. 128.
Yedid nefesh av harachaman,
Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Beshoch avdecha, El retzonecha, Beshoch avdecha, Yalai lai 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 lai, El retzonecha, Yarutz avdecha, Kemo ayal, Ishtachavei ay rai rai, Yalai lai 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 lai, El mul hadarecha, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Meshoch avdecha, Eretz zonecha, Meshoch avdecha, Yalai lai 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 lai, Eretz zonecha, Yarutz avdecha, Kemo ayal, Ishtachavei ay rai rai, Yalai lai 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 lai, El mul hadarecha. Inviting you to turn to page 120 in the prayer book as we prepare to offer brachot for the lighting of Shabbat candles. Before we offer the bracha for the lighting of candles, I offer these words of meditation. Thank you, God, for the gift of life with which you bless us each day. Thank you for the gift of light that allows us to see, to know, to feel, and to express ourselves. As a sign of Shabbat, may your light and truth continue to shine through us, upon us. When we light these Shabbat candles, we stand against the hatred, the bigotry, and the violence of the world. And when we stand against hatred, we break down the barriers of our lives and stand with one another in love and support. And when we stand together, we feel confident that our words and deeds are one. On page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
On page 126, we welcome one another to these moments of prayer. And as we offer this together as a congregation, I want to offer us a challenge. And the challenge is to substitute the words we and our for I and my, making this a communal prayer rather than an individual expression. Because not only are we there for ourselves, but I think that even in times of worship, we are there for one another as we help one another through these moments of prayer to grow in God's likeness. So we offer this together again, substituting we for I and our for my. Let us go. We begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in our lives. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but we need them. Through prayer, we can sense our inner strength, our inner purpose, our inner joy, our capacity to love. As we reach upward in prayer, we sense these qualities in our Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We continue on page 138.
And we'll be bringing back this melody from the beginning. As Rabbi mentioned, we are in these 3 weeks that lead up to Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, that commemorates a number of tragedies within Jewish history and practices that are engaged in on this fast day. In some ways, teach us how to hold brokenness, that sometimes it is important to make space for the brokenness so that rebuilding and healing can begin. There are various laments, liturgical poems, piyutim, that are recited during the 9th of Av, one of the most famous of which is called Elitzion Ve'areha. And so this melody that we do not know the authorship of is often sung in many communities during these 3 weeks leading up to the 9th of Av, as well as on the fast day itself. And so we'll use this melody for Lecha Dodi. Let's sing the nigun just once to kind of get it back into our system. And we'll use this melody for the first half of Lecha Dodi, and then we'll switch into something else. Just the nigun to get it. We'll move it up just a skosh here. Just to get it back into our system. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Lecha dodi likrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Ki hi mekor ha'beracha. Merosh mikel nesucha. Sof ma'aser machshava techila. Mikdash melech ir melucha. Kumitzei mitoch ha'hafecha. Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha. Vehu yalhamol alayich chemla. Narim me'afar mi. Livshi b'dei tifartech ami. Al yad ben Yishai beit halachmi. Korva el nafshi ge'ala. Hitoreri, hitoreri. Kiva orech kumi ori. Uri, uri, shir daveri. Kivod Adonai halayich nila lecha dodi. Lecha dodi likrat hala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat hala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat hala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevo מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר על תהילה לך דודי, לקראת כלה הנה שבת לקבלה. I realize we don't sing this verse very much, and the words are a bit of a mouthful. We'll take it a little bit slower. And if you don't want to, you can just sing Ya La La, that's fine too. V'hayu limshisa shosaich v'rachaku eval'aich yasis alaich Elohayich kisos hatan ala lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela yamin u'smol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai na'arizi al yadish ben parsi v'nismecha ve'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Oli v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam b'simcha u'v'tzola tochem unei am segula bo'ichala bo'ichala lecha dodi erat kala enei Shabbat nekavela.
A song for the Shabbat day on page 140. We continue and we'll conclude our Kabbalat Shabbat worship with Tov Lehodot, page 140.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. 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 להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, בכינור. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, Uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Uzamer l'shimcha elyon.
I feel compelled to offer a small teaching moment. At the last verse of Lecha Dodi, we rise and face the door. The mystics of Tzfat, where the cantor and I and others sitting in our congregation tonight just visited a few weeks ago, the mystics of Tzfat would turn toward the west. They would turn toward the place where the sun is setting and welcome the Kala, welcome the bride, which they envisioned as being the consort of Israel, which is us, and they had some mystical union on Shabbat. That's part of the teaching. But there's also a very important practical reason why we might turn toward an open door at that time. Kabbalat Shabbat, which is the songs that we just completed, are to be sung with joy, to be sung with abandon, to be sung with real happiness as we welcome Shabbat to our hearts and our lives. And yet we know that there are people who are in mourning. This week, I'm thinking of this because we had a death in our community this week, or a death that was observed in our community too. And as the custom was that the people who are in mourning are welcomed back into the synagogue, not during the songs of happiness, because we know that there's not happiness in their hearts, but we turn and we welcome them because they need people to reach out to them, to welcome them into a place where they may feel a little funny at a time when they experienced a loss. So I think of that, and I thought I would offer that to us. In ancient days, in older days perhaps, that was a certainty. We knew that there were communities that could console people as even they experienced death and grieving in their lives. There are few certainties in our world. Sometimes we don't have the certainty of community anymore. Sometimes, though, we do notice in nature that we actually are losing a little bit of our certainty there too, whether it's heat, extreme heat, or whether it is extreme and strange rainstorms that accompany us. But there is that certainty of the rotation of the earth around the sun and of the planets around the sun. And that seems to be more regular than anything else. And we thank God for that regularity because that also gives us a certain grounding in our lives. So all that we do really as we enter this time of evening prayer, indeed, is we thank God for those certainties. We thank God for those things in our lives which are constants, because without them we couldn't deal with all the uncertainties and all the things that change in our lives. Our Ma'arif begins on page 146 as we offer Baruch Hu, and we invite the community to rise. 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
On page 148, we offer this together at the middle of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hamariv Aravi.
Amen. On page 150, we also continue there at the middle of the page together. We join one another. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen. Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue at the top of page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. On page 157, we continue responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by
prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
158.
Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Mi chamocha ha'elim Adonai, mi kamocha netar b'kodesh. Nora,
Nora,
tehilot,
tehilot,
oseh,
oseh,
eleh,
eleh,
Nora,
Nora,
tehilot,
tehilot,
oseh,
oseh,
eleh, malchuteh. ובניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. The rabbis of our tradition used to say this prayer, Hashki Venu, is a nighttime prayer seeking protection from God. Protection from God for us in the world. Some people believe they need protection from God also, but that's very different. Because God neither punishes nor rewards. God is there. And it's up to us now, really, to take these responsibilities we have of protection, of giving peace to others, of granting them shelter under our aegis. That is something that we have to do. We are grateful for the ability to do that. We are grateful for the ability to enable other people to do that as well, to help bring protection to people who need it so much. We offer Hashki Venu on page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. 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 Ushmor Tzeiteinu Lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu lishalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Ushmor Tzeiteinu Uvoeinu Lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
There's a midrash that says, why did the Israelites have to paint blood on their doorposts after making their Passover sacrifices as a sign that God or the angel of death should see it and pass over their homes, sparing them at the time of the 10th plague? And many of you know the answer to this. The answer is that the Israelites didn't have to demonstrate to God whose houses were whose. God knew which the Israelite houses were. God understood that. But what the people didn't understand, and what God understood, is that sometimes you have to go through a motion in order to prepare yourself for what comes next. And it was the motion of painting their doorposts with blood. It was the simple act of following a command that began to get the Israelites in a place where they could hear other commands and receive other sacred obligations onto themselves, and therefore and thereby achieve and acquire their own liberation from Egypt. Their taking one step at a time enables them to do that. We in our lives have many first steps, and sometimes we are afraid of taking some of those steps, whatever they happen to be. They could be a new job responsibility, it could be making a new friend, it could be asserting yourself where you need to be assertive. But the more that we take those first steps in our lives, and the more that that feeling becomes a customary thing to us, the easier it is with every first step that we take. Sometimes worship is like that. I had a discussion with someone on the phone this week about the difference between prayer and worship. This person who is not Jewish, he said to me, well, Jews say bread, prayer over bread and a prayer over wine. And I said, yes, those are prayers and they're important prayers. And I said to him, but worship is more. Worship is an act that brings a community together. Worship is an act that enables us not only to offer gratitude for wine or for bread, but it also allows us to be with the community and to say that this is something that we are grateful for. And we have a source of gratitude, at least traditionally. So when we offer prayer, try to distinguish between what is just a prayer, because there are many prayers that we offer every day. God, that was good, right? Or we also offer worship. That too is a prayer. That too is worship, but of a different sort. But the worship that we offer in the prayer book is something that's very important because it forms a connection, a bond, perhaps with God, certainly with this community that we have here tonight. Our tefillah begins on page 164. We invite the community to rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
166.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Ha'akol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livanei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah.
Page 168.
Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal,
Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afad, Micha Mocha Baal Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua.
ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Amen. Page 170.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. And we continue the tefillah silently, offering those prayers that are most important to us. And we'll meet you up on page 181, I think, and then 180. Go back and forth there, but that's where we'll conclude.
The words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock, my redeemer, my rock, my redeemer. Ratzon imrei fi v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali v'goali aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen ve'imru amen.
There are many people in our hearts tonight, people who are in the hospital, who may be at home recovering from illness or surgery, people who need our thoughts and prayers just as much as they need a doctor's care and their caring team's supervision. We offer now prayers of healing and wholeness for these individuals. Again, some we know and some we may not know, maybe nearby, maybe far away. There's almost 100 people now on our healing list at Temple Bethel. And we think about all of them, and they should know that we are praying on their behalf. There are also maybe people in your minds, people whom you're thinking of, who need a special prayer of healing at this time. And if they know that we're praying on their behalf, perhaps that will give them a lift, perhaps that will give them some encouragement that their suffering is being accompanied by us who are there with them, and we are helping them through. If there is someone who in your life you would like to mention their name or a group of people, we invite you to do so. We'll start over on this side of the room, and as I look in your direction, please offer those names if you would like. Are there others we should be thinking about tonight? On page 371 at the middle is Misha Berach, a prayer we offer for healing, a prayer we offer wholeness, we offer for wholeness, a prayer we offer for hope. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Shabbat Shalom. I want to offer sort of a small visual Devar Torah tonight. So I'd like you to get your programs ready. But you don't have to look at it quite yet, because I want to offer a few words. I want to say there are people in the world, and there are people in professions who need to be direct, without flowery language, without nonsense, without accoutrements in their speech. They just need to be direct and say what they need to say. There are people in the world and professions in the world, those people who need to be political in how they say things. They need to watch carefully whom they speak to and what they say to whom, because they want to be polite, or they don't want something bad to get back to somebody else, or for a lot of reasons. There are probably kinds of people who go back and forth and have a little bit of one and have a little bit of the other. In this week's Torah portion, Moses is someone who actually teaches us a lesson, I think, in terms of the necessity of being direct. So now you can open up your programs for a minute and turn to page 3 in your program. And if you're joining us online, you can click on the video description and you can actually come along and see what we're talking about here. But if you look at page 3, I have actually photographed a portion of the Torah for this night. This week we read the parasha of Matot Mas'eh. It's a double parasha. This is from chapter 32, the book of Numbers. And this is a description, to tell you what's here, of 2 tribal representatives, or 2 tribes, who come to Moses, and they say, if you look at the English translation, this is what they say. They say, all those places across the river, Atarot, and Divon, and Yezer, and Nimrah, Cheshbon, El Ale, Sevam, Nevo, Beon, the land that the Eternal has conquered for the community of Israel, that's cattle country, and your servants have cattle. That's the first thing they say to Moses. And then there's that blue space that I put conveniently in the text for us tonight. If you look above in the photograph of the Torah scroll, you'll see a blank space in the middle of the text. That's where that blue is, or the blank space is represented in the English translation by that blue block of text. Now, technically speaking, we call that orthographic representation of Torah, we say that's satum. It's a new thought, but it's like sealed in the middle of a paragraph. There are paragraphs in the Torah. Most of you, I think, have seen what a Torah scroll looks like. There are paragraphs, and there are books, and then there are these places that are called satum, where it's like it's a different thought, or it's the beginning of a new sentence, but it's sealed in the middle somewhere. Just to show you that that's what the people who gave us the Torah wrote there. But it's there perhaps for a reason, and I want to offer this reason. So we have, now going back to the translation below, we have all these people from the tribes of Reuben and Gad, who were cattle people. They were ranchers. They were cowboys, cowgirls, cow people. And they're saying, you know, Moses, all that beautiful land over there, that there is cow country. What do you think Moses is thinking to himself at this time? I'm asking you a question. This is not, pardon me? Not rhetorical, thank you. This is just asking, what do you think Moses is saying to himself at this time? Say it again?
We all have to share the space.
We all have to share the space. So Moses is already thinking about a solution, right? So Moses is thinking about that, but he doesn't say it. Because look who talks next. The people of Gad and Reuven, they talk next. But I don't want to go and see what they said yet. But other people, what do you think Moses is saying here? Moses hears this. Nice country you got here. And what does Moses think about that? Even the mere statement of it.
Yes, it's good land, but we're not where we're supposed to be going yet.
So we're not there yet. So
you think this is good? Wait until we get there.
So Moses is thinking to himself, how am I going to get people to see what the new land of Israel is about? Nice. 2 great comments. I'll offer a third. So I think that Moses is saying, yes, so what's your point? Moses is, I think, giving them an opportunity to complete their thought, which they haven't done yet. Moses is waiting for them to say whatever Moses is essentially saying to himself, I think, is there a question here? You've told me how nice it is, and it is nice. And wait till you see what's coming next in this beautiful land, and we have to share this. But why are you coming to me telling me how nice the land is? We know it's a nice piece of land. We've been told for years, for 40 years, it's a nice piece of land. What am I supposed to do with that? And then Reuben and Gad continue, right? They then, after that little blue paragraph that little blue box, it says, they said, again, getting back to the tribes, so if you like us, if we have found favor in your eyes, let this land, that is the land to the east of the Jordan River, be given to your servants, that's us, as a holding. Do not move us across the Jordan. We like it here. We're not sure we want to go across the Jordan. And now, what does Moses make of that? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that, but begin to think what Moses makes of that, and let's see what Moses' response was. Moses says to the Gadites and the Reubenites, are your kinfolk to go to war while you stay here? Why would you distract the hearts of the Israelites from crossing into the land that the Eternal has given them? That is what your ancestors did when I sent them there, and I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to survey the land. And then Moses goes on, and he talks about the fact that they sent up spies, and the spies came back with bad reports, and so Moses is about to tell them a long story about why their response is not acceptable. Now, in the context of Torah, Moses is saying this. In the context of the Torah scroll, the Torah story, Moses says, don't chicken out. You tell me it looks like nice land. Yeah, it's very nice land, but you are not needed on this land. Right now, you all are needed to cross the river with us because it's going to take us 3 years to conquer this land over here. You can't back away from your responsibility to your tribe. That's what Moses is about to tell them. It's a longer citation, but that's what Moses is about to say in the Torah portion. So Moses said, you can't be draft dodgers. We are conscripting you, and you have to come. The Gadites and Reubenites eventually say, okay, we'll make you a deal. We'll leave our family, our cattle, and our wives and our children here, and we'll go over and fight, and then we'll return there. And Moses is cool with that. Moses agrees that that's okay. But Moses doesn't say anything. I want to get back to this ellipsis that Moses stops and doesn't say anything, doesn't respond to the Reubenites and the Gadites, because he wants them to say it. I think he wants them to state directly what they are talking about. And I think that Moses teaches us a lesson here about communication. Moses says, get to the point. If you are a parent in this room, many of your kids might have come to you at some point in their lives and say, Mom, I really like that popsicle on the shelf. And your response is, okay, is there a question here? Right? So I think Moses is saying that if you have something to say, you should say it completely. I think that's something that the Torah is hinting at here. There are other places in the Torah, by the way, where there are not ellipses so much, but other places where a person in the Torah or an entity in the Torah is saying something, and the Torah then has a little word that says, and then they continue to say so and so and so and so. And I've given you one example on page 4 in the program. This is from a whole different part of the Torah, where God is speaking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and God is saying, should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do with Sodom and Gomorrah? And then there's a purple space, as you can see on page 4. I put a little purple space where I think there could be an ellipsis, but there is not one in the Torah, because then God may have other thoughts, and God says, oh, well, then I think, I'm convincing myself that, yeah, it's so bad that I have to tell Abraham about the fact that I'm about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. We can talk about that another time. But on page 3 again, that's the text of the Torah that I wanted to share with you tonight, because these texts are hold secrets for us. They hold hidden meanings for us. And they are able to make suggestions to us about how to live our lives and how to approach understanding some of these texts, even understanding some of these words that the ancients are trying to have us understand. Shabbat Shalom to us all. If you are not going to be taking this program home, please leave it with us. And if you take it home, there are in this Torah photograph, there is the name of God, and so we ask you to bury it appropriately or to deal with that, just so you know that there is God's name on that photograph, and you should handle it carefully. Otherwise, you can leave them here on the table, and we will place these in our geniza for eventual burial in our congregational location. Any questions about any of this? Okay. I want to ask the congregation to turn to page 376. At this time, when our nation and many nations in the world, nation of Israel too, is facing some difficulty, and I'm thinking about the difficulty that we have with people in these nations who are trying to find democracy in their lives and trying to instill democracy in their hearts. And so we offer this prayer for our country and indeed for the nation of Israel, as both us and she are trying to find a pathway toward the proper way of being with one another. On page 376, this prayer for our country begins with these words from Isaiah. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Please join one another. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks with what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. And I offer on page 377 this prayer for the state of Israel as well, since it's here and since we are here. O Heavenly One, and please join me if you would like. Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. On page 123 in the prayer book is the Kiddush for this Erev Shabbat, page 123. We join Cantor Jacob as we offer Kiddush on this Shabbat evening. Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, V'Shabbat Kodeshecha Be'ahava Uveratzon Hinachalotanu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim. Our service continues now on page 586 with Aleinu, and we invite the community to rise. Page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon ha'kol, l'teit gdula liotzer breshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed aretz, umoshav yikaro, bashamayim imal, ushchinat uzo begovhei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. You may be seated. We continue on page 588. For you spread out the heavens and established the earth. Your majestic abode is in the heavens above, and your mighty presence is in the loftiest heights. You are our God, there is none else. In truth, you are our sovereign without compare, as is written in your Torah. Know then this day and take it to heart that Adonai is surely God in the heavens above, and on the earth below. There is none else. Please join one another below. We therefore hope in you, Adonai, our God. May we soon behold the glory of your might, sweeping away the false gods of the earth, that idolatry be utterly destroyed, perfecting the world under the rule of God, that all humanity invoke your name, turning all the wicked of the earth toward you. On page 591.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz hayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
Dear God, you give us loved ones who are indeed the lights of our lives. And then again, they are taken from us, and we are in grief and we are bereft. And yet we have a community that supports us, we hope, and that is with us at time of our grief and our sorrow. And so at this time, we think of those who have passed away from our world, those who died in the last 30 days, those whose Yartzeiten occur at this time, and others who are with us at all times in our hearts, helping us to live in a very special and meaningful way as we face the world and its challenges. These are those whom we've taken into our hearts with our own, and as I read their names, if you have a loved one here whose name is on this list, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recited, and then you'll be joined later on by those who are, by all of us when we recite the mourner's Kaddish. These are the recent deaths in our community or connected to members of our community. We remember tonight Selma Friedman, grandmother of Mark Friedman, and great-grandmother of Micah, Stella, and Ezra Friedman. We remember Gary L. Skoog, father of Mona Lazar, grandfather of Noah, Sadie, and Lila Lazar. We remember Mary Benderson, sister-in-law of Royce Dembo. We remember Rebecca Scarborough, a good friend of mine. And we remember a member of this synagogue who passed away this week, Judy Obrasky Schreiber, mother of Margaret Schreiber and Beth Schreiber, and grandmother of Julia Sitz and Jesse and Ava Kahn. And these are the Yartzeiten that we observe at this time. In continuing dedication to their memories, we remember Abraham Abrams, Hinda Askenazi, Lynn S. Berman, Anna Blumenfeld, Alan David Burstein, Ernestine Chechik, George Coburn, Edith Fabish, Mark David Fells, Gustav Uri Gantz, Jean Gronick, Dr. Bension Hose, Sidney Howard Kalfas, Genya Kladnitskaya, F. Lester Levy, Sonia Maletz, Martin Miller, Robert Mitzman, Ethel Potter, Elliot J. Resnick, Sylvia L. Reese, Kenneth Schmidt, Jacqueline Siegel, Adolph Silver, Berthold Silverman, Susan R. Sinico, Leonard Stein, Ann Wiggin, Susan Winnig, and Morris Zaidband. There may be other people whom we are remembering tonight, or perhaps our guests and visitors here tonight may have someone for whom they're observing a yahrzeit, or they may be in mourning. And if you have other names that you'd like to share with us, we now invite you to do so.
Dr. Paula Geldergelly.
Dottie Raymer.
Others we should be remembering at this time. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be blessings in our hearts and the hearts and minds of all those who knew and loved them. Testifying to the faith, then, that binds the generations of humanity together, please turn to page 598, and as a community of consolation, we rise and stand with those already standing to offer the mourner's Kaddish. Again, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, Shmei Kudsha Brichu, Le'ela min kol bir chata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imeru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, Ve'imaru. Amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort to those who are bereaved. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Our service is about to conclude, and when it does, we're invited out to the Weinstein Community Court, where we will share an Oneg Shabbat in honor of this day. And we thank the TBE, Temple Bethel Sisterhood, our Women of Reformed Judaism, for sponsoring the Oneg Shabbat on this Friday evening. We want to also let you know a couple things about worship events to come. Tomorrow morning, there will be Torah study at 9 o'clock here in the building and also on Zoom. So please look at our website if you'd like to come and access it that way, or come to our building just before 9 and someone will let you in and we can celebrate Torah by studying together. Next Friday evening, Shabbat Midor Lador, our musical service for the whole Temple family, will be at 7:30 p.m. Please join us at that time as Les Goldsmith and the Promised Band and those of us who participate with him will be able to lead one another in a great musical service. Next Saturday morning, as always, on the 22nd of July, there will be Torah study at 9 o'clock in the morning as well. The following week, just to put this on your radar screens, Wednesday evening, July 26th, is the evening of Tisha B'Av. It is the day upon which we observe these tragedies that happened to our people, the destruction of the first temple, the destruction of the second temple, the expulsion from Spain, the Holocaust certainly is also something that people recall. The Chmelnytsky massacres in Poland in the 17th century. All these are occasions when we do get together and remember them. And we do so in order to sometimes rededicate ourselves to helping to eradicate hate in the world, to remember those lives that were lost, to hope that our lessons about trying to eradicate prejudice and eradicate hatred is something that we also want to think about. And there's one other lesson, too, that I would say, and I think this goes to what's happening in Israel right now. The rabbis tell us that the temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred between and among the different Jewish groups that existed at the time of those destructions. They were talking mostly at the time of the second destruction. The first destruction had similar kinds of squabbles among people as well. But the rabbis remind us that if the Jewish people is not united, then we are really, to use a good Talmudic phrase, oftsuris. And so, which really is Yiddish, which didn't exist at the time of the Talmud. It's all right. It's not really from the Talmud. But the sentiment is there. So it's important for us to understand a little bit of the emotion of that day. And I'm going to ask Cantor if you'll talk a little bit about what we do on that day to help bring that sense of hope, even out of tragedy, from that moment. Don't want to put you on the spot necessarily.
Sure. Well, and it is a fast day, which some people will observe and some won't. Unlike some of the minor fasts, this is actually one where people would also fast from sundown to sundown, like on Yom Kippur, whereas some of the minor fasts are only from sunrise to sunset. So it's considered to be of almost that equal status of having that focus, of being able to really dwell in that space of brokenness. But importantly, as we make that space for that, is not dwelling there forever. In Lechadodi, which we sang earlier this evening, there's a phrase, Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, too long have you dwelt in the valley of tears. And it encourages then later in the poem to rise up and sing. And at the end of the book of Lamentations that is read on the 9th of Av, we have a phrase that's very familiar. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Return us to you, O God, so that we may return. Renew our days as of old. A verse that is then repeated every time we return the Torah to the Ark, but also throughout the High Holy Day season. So on that 9th of Av, we also realize that we're only 7 weeks away from the new year, a time of great reflection and renewal and rebuilding of ourselves and returning to the ways that we want to be in the world. Our tradition teaches us time and time again. I'm thinking about the Rav Nachman of Bratslav, that if you believe the breaking is possible, you must believe that the fixing is possible. If you believe that the destruction is possible, you must believe that the building and the rebuilding is possible. And as Rabbi mentioned before, that the destruction being based on baseless hatred, the building then needs to be based in chesed, in overflowing loving kindness.
Which is something that we really try to maintain in our hearts, despite the difficulties of the world. If we can continue the tradition of love and reaching out to people, then we will indeed make this world a better place. And so I want to, as our close tonight, invite you to turn to page 4 in the supplements as we offer these words from Psalm 89.
Building with loving kindness.
Olam chesed yibane, yadarai, rai, rai, yadarai, rai.
Olam chesed yibane, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai.
Olam chesed yibane, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai.
And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh. 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 Yalalai, lai, 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 lai. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.